Hey guys, this is Smithy. Welcome to my channel. Today's video is a very special one. Gourmande Girls reached out to me and I could not be more excited. You can know the excitement level when an indie brand reaches out to me because I'm obsessed with my duochromes and multichromes. So they reached out to me to send their newest palette and I said yes because I really wanted to review it for you guys. And this is their Ethereal palette and this is full of duochromes, multichromes, all shimmery goodness. And this is how the palette looks. It also comes with the same sleeve that it rests in, and all the ingredients are written on the back. I don't know the pricing of this palette at the time that I'm recording this video, but as soon as I know all the details, I'll put it in the description below for you guys. This palette is launching on August 9th, and this palette has 12 beautiful shimmery goodness shades. Look how beautiful and dimensional these shades are. They've done quite a few palettes earlier and they have sent quite a few palettes to me too, which I'll use in the future videos, but I definitely wanted to concentrate this because this is the newest palette and I wanted to play with it. But yes, without further ado, let's dive right into the swatches of this video. And thank you again to Gourmande Girls for sending this palette towards me. But I'm going to keep it super real, 100% real. They definitely did not ask me to do this video or like do anything about it. They just wanted me to test it out. But I thought of recording it because it's a new palette and it's an indie brand. Why not, right? But you wait and see the swatches of this palette. Oh my god, it's something. It's really something. So let's start off with this palette. The first shade in the palette is called Pure and it seems like a taupery shimmery white shade. And when you see, all these shades are more of like a thicker formula, but this one is definitely more like on the taupery side. So you can build it on top of any like colorful matte and you'll see like how beautiful and dimensional it is. You know it's a taupery shade because it's like more translucent. Can you see that? But when the light hits it, can you see that gold, green gold like coming through? It's so pretty and so dimensional. Absolutely lovely. Now let's move on to the second shade in the palette. Oh my god. This is called Astrid. This took my breath away. I don't know if you can see that or not. It has like a pink base but with like a green like flip to it, greenish bluish flip to it. This actually reminded me. Do you remember that Adept Cosmetics and Heather Austin's palette? The second shade, I don't remember the shade name. I think it's Passport. It totally reminds me of that eyeshadow. And oh my god, wait and see the swatch. It's just breathtaking. Oh my goodness. Can you see that? It has that green, pink, blue flip. It's just amazing. And so dimensional. So dimensional. Absolutely beautiful. Look at that, look at that. Look at that. Whoa, I'm so excited. Okay, the next shade in the palette is called Exquisite. And this is more of like a deep purple to a blue purple shimmer running throughout it. This one. So let's swatch that. Again, these shades have like a little bit of thickness to it. So it's gonna be a little more like smoothing rather than being like chunky, I would say. It's not like a squishy formula. Oh, look at that. Like for a purple smoky eye, it's gonna be so nice. Ooh, so pretty. Absolutely love it. Okay, the next shade in the first row is called Radiance and this is more of like an orange shade with like lime green shimmer running throughout it. You see that? It also has some pink in it, like a pinky orangey shade with like lime green. Look at that. Wow. That's stunning. That is stunning. Okay, I feel like Radical from Isabel palette does not have that much base in it, but this definitely has much more like a thicker, like a pinker base to it. Yeah, it's so pretty. Okay, now Let me wipe all these swatches and let's move on to the second row. You guys know I'm not a big fan of greens, and this green, oh my god, it's kiss worthy. It's so pretty. And this is called Ethereal, and this is more of like an olive green shade, but you need to see the dimension. Like, look at that. Look at that. You know what this shade reminded me of? This is definitely more like dimensional, but it totally reminded me of like that Dose of Colors Friendcation palette, Dirty Money shade, but it definitely has like more dimension, but the undertone is very, very similar. Look at that. Woo! Money. It is money. Okay, the next shade in the palette is called Nova, and this is a blue, like a sky blue to a purple shifting shade. Look at that. So pretty. So let's swatch that. Man, I cannot even. Like, look at that shift. Are you kidding me? Because these shadows are more like of a thicker formula, there's no like iridescent shimmer running throughout it. It's like you can see the extreme shiftiness through like one swipe. It's amazing. The next shade in the palette is called Shangrila, and this is more of like an emerald green shimmer. Look at that. Let's swatch that. I can actually see a little bit of blue also. Yeah, definitely a duochrome. Oh, wow. It's like a teal, actually, like a greenish, bluish, shimmery shade. So pretty, man. I really cannot wait to put these things on my eyes. The next shade in the palette is called Lucent, and this is like a yellow shimmery shade. Now, I do not have like a lot of yellow shimmers in my collection. The only one more like yellow shimmer that I have is from Pretty's For Your Face, and that is more like a yellow to a blue shifting shade, and this seems like a yellow to a green shifting shade. But it also has like pink shift also running throughout it. Wow. I think you can only see like, you can see a lot of like green and pink and less of yellow, but I see a lot of yellow with like pink. Look at that. Again, it's like a taupery shade. If you can see, like it's more of like that translucent base. Another transforming shade. If you put it on any other like shadow, it will just mix and like take and transform to another dimension. Absolutely lovely. That Shangrila shade, the green shade, definitely has like a black base to it. So do keep that in mind. I think Shangrila and Lunar was the black based shifting shade. So the next shade in the palette is called Dream, and this is more of like a peach pink shifting shade. Let's swatch that. Whoa. Look at that. It actually has like a peach and an orange and gold. Look at that. So stunning. Oh man. What am I gonna put? I don't know. I have no idea. The next shade in this palette is called Lunar, and this is like a deep royal purple shade, but it also has like a blue to it. So let's swatch that. This shade's formula is definitely a little more different, but I don't know how to explain it. It's thick, but it skips. So I think like dragging it across would be the best way to apply it. But look at the pigmentation. That is absolutely stunning. Stunning. Whoa. Man. That is some pigment, and that is a black base. See, when I'm wiping it, can you see that black base coming through? Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Okay, the next shade in the palette is called Indigo, and this shade is more of like a purple to a pink to a purple, like an iridescent shade. This definitely I've seen before, like in the other palettes. Can you see that pink to a purple shifting shade? Yeah, so beautiful. Lovely. Like that's like my comfort zone. So I'm very comfortable with those shades. The last shade in the palette, oh my god, certainly not the least, it's called Emerge, and this is like a coppery gold shade. Oh my god, you need to see. This feels like liquid metal. That's how pigmented it is. Oh my goodness. Like, look at that. Look at that. Oh my goodness. That's beautiful, like absolutely beautiful. And that was the palette swatched for you. Now let me give you a close-up of all the swatches that I did in the outside lighting too, so that you can see all the shifts in the dimensions and how beautifully dimensional this palette is. I am thoroughly impressed by the shades that were selected in this palette. So now that you have seen all the swatches of this palette, now let's move on to the 5 looks using this palette. First, I'm going to take this shade, and this is called Emerge, and this is a beautiful golden shade, as you can see. And I'm going to tap that on my eyelids. And that, as you can see, like gives a beautiful golden shimmer running all throughout it. Now, if you want to make this look a little more cool tone, what I basically did is I took this shade, which is Nova, and this is like a blue purple gray shade, and I'm gonna take that and just dab it right on top of this gold shade, and that will make it like more of a taupey, a cool tone gold, if you can like even imagine that. It definitely has like a hint of platinum in it, a little bit of gray toned in it. Can you see that? And it is so shimmery. If you can see that, both of them like mixed together. I'm just gonna take the same brush that I used for my outer and the inner corners, and I basically used my Dominique Cosmetics Latte palette, and I dipped back and forth into hazelnut and mocha to get that deepening shade. And this is just to avoid any edges. And for the inner corner, I took this shade Pure, and it's like a metallic white shade that you can top it out with anything, and it like blend beautifully with anything, and that's what I applied in the inner corners. And that's my first eye look. So I basically created like a cool tone everyday smoky eye, I would say, using this palette. And when you see this palette, obviously you cannot see like any grays or anything because there are no grays, but again, you can definitely mix 2-3 shades like I did to create this like smoky eye, and you can see how beautifully it blends together. I absolutely am in love with this eye look. So now let's move on to the second eye look. For the mattes, I'm going to take my Blend Bunny's Primal palette. I'm going to first take the shade Untamed, and this is this orange shade in the palette, and I'm going to take that on the inner third of my eyelid, basically in the crease. I'm going to take this shade, which is Lethal from the palette, and I'm going to take that on the outer corners and just melt it down right in the middle. Again, building it slowly and blending it on the lower lash line too, mainly in the outer corners. I'm going to take this shade, which is Huntress, which is this red shade in the palette. I'm going to blend right in the center of that orange and that maroon shade. And then I'm going to take this Rome shade and just blend the edges. And for the lower lash line, I'm going to dip into this shade, which is Warning, and go on my lower lash line with that. I'm going to take a little bit of glitter glue, the NYX glitter glue, and just tap it right on the eyelid, just for a tacky base. And then moving into the Ethereal palette, I'm going to take this shade, which is Luna, and I'm going to put that right in the center of my eyelid. Look how pretty that shade is. Oh man. And how vibrant it is. So nice. Okay. Now I'm going to take this shade, which is Radiance from the palette, and I'm going to pat that in the inner third of the eyelid. And then just melt it into that blue shade. How pretty it is. Yeah, for the inner corners, let's dip into this shade, which is Lucent. I'm gonna put that right there and just sweep it like that. For the outer corners, I'm gonna dip into the shade Instinct, and I'm just gonna deepen it up a tiny little bit. Let me finish off this eye with some liner and mascara, and I'll get right back. And that's my second eye look. Now let's move on to the third eye look. I'm going to dip into my Giant Folds palette from Odin's Eye. I'm going to dip into this shade, which is Antipode from the palette. And I'm going to put that right in the crease. Now for the outer corners, I'm going to dip into this shade, which is Desolate. And this is that deep dark green shade. I'm going to focus that on the outer corners and also on the lower lash line. Now just to deepen it up a tiny little bit, I'm going to go into Annihilation, this black shade. Again, I'm going to just take the little bit of NYX glitter glue and just pat it right on the eyelid. I'm going to dip into this shade, which is Ethereal, this olive green shade from the palette. I'm going to place that right in the center of my eyelid. Look how pretty that is. And then I'm going to take this shade, which is Lucent, and I'm going to take that. Oh man, that's stunning. Right in the inner third. I'm going to concentrate that on the inner corners too. And that is it. Now to finish off this eye, on the lower lash line, I'm going to take this shade, which is Shangrila, and I'm going to place that right on my lower lash line. I'm going to finish this eye off with some liner and mascara, and I'll get right back. And that is my third eye look. Okay, let's begin with the fourth eye look. I'm going to start off with the shade Rome in the crease, and then I'm going to deepen it up with this shade, which is called Exotic. And this is like super pale shade, so it will help us to blend that exotic shade right in the crease. I'm going to take the shade Exotic. Once we have that all blended across in the crease, I'm just going to intensify with the same shade in the outer corners too. Just like that. And the same thing, I'm going to do it in the inner corners. Once we have that all blended, I'm going to take a very tiny little bit of this orange, which is Untamed, and just go over the edges. Now I'm going to intensify my inner and the outer corner with this black shade Nocturnal. Now I'm going to take a NYX glitter glue right in the center of my eyelid. Just right there. Just so that I have some kind of a tacky base here. Of course, you do not need to do this step. I'm just doing this just because I have my base already done and I don't want anything to fall out on my face. So very tiny little bit. And then we're going to dive into this palette, and I'm going to dip into this shade, which is Dream. And then I'm going to pat that right in the center. Just like that. Such a pretty shade. Like so pretty. I'm gonna take the same shade in my inner corners too. Just like that. And I'm gonna take the same brush that we used for blending the shades. Just to blend the outer corners. Just so that there's no harsh lines. Now to finish off this eye, I'm going to take, what should we take? Let's take this shade, which is Exquisite. And I'm going to take that on my lower lash line. Just like that. Now let me finish off this eye with some liner and mascara and I'll get right back. And that's my fourth eye look. Now let's move on to the fifth and the final eye look. Okay, I'm going to dip back into the Giant Folds palette from Odin's Eye and I'm going to take this shade, which is Azure, and I'm going to take that on the crease. And slightly blend the edges, just like that. And then I'm going to take this shade, which is Ablaze. I'm gonna concentrate that on the outer corners and then just slightly mix it right in the center, and that would give more of a purple eye look. Just like that. Blend the edges slightly and then do the same thing on the lower lash line. A mismatch of shades, I know. Now let's go back into our Ethereal palette and I'm going to take this shade, which is Astrid, and I'm going to take that in the inner corner. Look how bright that is. Inner corner, just for a pop. And then I'm going to take this shade, which is Nova, and I'm going to apply that right here in the center. Such a pretty shade. Ah, so pretty. So pretty. I'm going to finish off this eye, clean up this mess, and then I'll get right back. So that's how the eye is looking so far. Have we not used any shade? We've not used indigo as yet, so I'm going to take that indigo shade and I'm going to take that basically on the lower lash line. Oh, such a pretty shade. So that completes our fifth and the final look. I really love all that you can like create out of this palette. It's truly such a special palette to have in the collection, especially if you are like a beginner in like duochrome and multi-chromes. I really feel that this gives you a lot of variety that you can play with. I really feel that way, and I think you can create like a plethora of looks using this palette, and the variety that we did on our eyes, you can see like how much variety you can do. And even in the first eye look that I showed you, I mixed like this and this together to create like a cool tone look. You can definitely go more on the warmer tone side and just apply this, and you can see like how beautiful and dimensional this is. I really feel that if you are picking up this palette, you will definitely not be disappointed by it. And out of the looks that I created, I really feel I'm vibing with this eye look more, just because I love my purples, that's why. But I really love this one too. You let me know in the comment section below which was your favorite eye look, and if you did like this video, do give it a thumbs up and also subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and ring that notification bell so that you're notified every time that I post next. I generally upload 3 videos every single week, every Tuesdays, Thursdays and Saturdays at 9 AM Eastern Standard Time. Until next time, I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye guys.